Have you ever wondered why one hug can make someone feel completely safe, while another can make them want to pull away instantly? The difference isn't strength. It isn't confidence. It isn't romance. It's something much deeper. Every embrace tells a story about who you are. It reveals whether you seek to take or to give. Today, you'll discover the one mistake that quietly destroys trust and the 6 principles that turn a simple hug into a powerful expression of respect, empathy, and genuine human connection. Imagine for a moment that every interaction you have with another person begins with a silent question. It isn't spoken out loud, yet everyone asks it unconsciously. Am I safe with you? Before a single word is exchanged, before a smile is returned, before a hug begins, that question has already shaped the moment. The greatest mistake people make is believing that a hug is about expressing what they feel. In reality, a meaningful hug begins by considering what the other person feels. The difference may seem small, but it changes everything. Many people approach relationships with the mindset of taking rather than giving. They seek affection because they want reassurance. They reach out because they need comfort. They embrace someone hoping to satisfy their own emotional needs. While these desires are completely human, problems arise when another person's comfort becomes secondary to our own. Healthy relationships are never built on the question, what can I get from this moment? They grow from a much better question. What does this person need from me right now? Emotional intelligence begins with awareness. It requires us to stop thinking about ourselves for a moment and start paying attention to another human being. Is the other person relaxed? Are they smiling naturally? Do they seem comfortable with physical affection? Every individual has different boundaries, different experiences, and different ways of expressing care. Some people love hugs. Others reserve them for those they trust deeply. Neither approach is right or wrong. Respect begins when we recognize that comfort cannot be assumed. It must be understood. The strongest people are often the ones who understand that respect comes before closeness. They never pressure others into affection. They never assume that because they feel connected, the other person must feel the same. Instead, they move with patience. They allow trust to develop naturally, understanding that genuine connection cannot be forced. Think about the people you trust most in your own life. Chances are, it isn't because they always said the perfect words or made dramatic gestures. You trust them because they consistently respected your feelings. They listened when you spoke. They noticed when something was wrong. They gave you space when you needed it and support when you welcomed it. Their actions communicated one simple message: your comfort matters. That same principle applies to every embrace. A hug is never just physical contact. It is a form of communication. Without saying a word, it tells another person whether you are thoughtful or careless, patient or impulsive, respectful or self-centered. People may forget the exact moment, but they rarely forget how someone made them feel. Feeling respected creates emotional safety, and emotional safety is the foundation upon which every healthy relationship is built. One of the greatest misconceptions about confidence is that confident people always take the lead. In reality, true confidence often looks like restraint. It is having enough self-assurance that you don't need to force closeness or demand attention. It is being secure enough to accept another person's boundaries without taking them personally. Confidence says, I respect your comfort because my worth does not depend on your immediate approval. When you shift your focus from your own needs to another person's well-being, something remarkable happens. People begin to relax around you. Conversations become more genuine. Trust develops naturally because they sense that you are not trying to take something from them. Instead, they feel that you genuinely care about their experience. That feeling cannot be faked. Authentic respect has a way of revealing itself through even the smallest actions. Relationships flourish when people feel seen rather than used. Every meaningful connection is strengthened by empathy, the ability to imagine the world through someone else's perspective. Empathy asks questions before making assumptions. It notices emotions that words may hide. It understands that kindness is not measured by grand gestures, but by thoughtful consideration. There is another powerful truth worth remembering. Affection has value only when it is freely shared. Any gesture loses its meaning the moment it ignores another person's comfort. Genuine warmth cannot exist without mutual willingness. That is why respect is not an obstacle to connection. It is the very thing that makes connection meaningful. The most memorable people are rarely those who seek attention at every opportunity. They are the ones who leave others feeling appreciated, understood, and emotionally secure. They create environments where people can be themselves without fear of judgment or pressure. That kind of presence is rare because it requires humility. It requires placing another person's dignity above your own desire to be liked. Every interaction is an opportunity to communicate your character. Whether through words, actions, or a simple embrace, people are constantly learning who you are. Make your message one of patience. Make it one of empathy. Make it one of respect. Because when your first priority becomes another person's comfort instead of your own needs, you don't just create a better hug, you become someone others naturally trust, genuinely respect, and willingly welcome into their lives. Trust is never built in a single moment. It is built through hundreds of small decisions that communicate one powerful message: I respect you. Every healthy relationship, whether it is a friendship, a romantic partnership, or even a family bond, depends on that foundation. The mistake many people make is believing that closeness comes first and respect follows. In reality, the opposite is true. Respect creates trust, and trust creates genuine closeness. When you understand this principle, you stop chasing connection and start becoming the kind of person people naturally feel comfortable around. Every person carries an invisible boundary. It cannot always be seen, and it is rarely explained, but it exists. These boundaries are shaped by personality, culture, past experiences, and individual comfort levels. Some people are naturally expressive and enjoy physical affection. Others are more reserved and prefer to build trust gradually. Neither approach is better than the other. What matters is recognizing that everyone has the right to decide what makes them feel comfortable. One of the clearest signs of emotional maturity is the ability to recognize and honor those boundaries without taking them personally. Immature people often see boundaries as rejection. They assume that if someone hesitates, creates distance, or says no, it reflects their own worth. But emotionally intelligent people understand something different. They know that another person's boundaries are about that person's comfort, not about proving someone else's value. Think about the strongest relationships in your life. They probably weren't built because someone demanded your trust. They grew because the other person consistently respected your choices. They listened instead of assuming. They asked instead of expecting. They gave you the freedom to move at your own pace. That patience created security, and security allowed trust to grow naturally. Real confidence never feels the need to rush. People who are secure in themselves don't pressure others into closeness because they understand that meaningful relationships cannot be forced. They know that every relationship has its own rhythm. Trying to speed up that process often has the opposite effect, making others feel uncomfortable instead of connected. Patience is one of the most overlooked forms of respect. In a world where people want instant results, instant replies, and instant relationships, patience stands out. It communicates that you value the person more than the outcome. Instead of asking, how quickly can I become close to this person? Ask yourself, how can I consistently make this person feel respected? That small change in perspective transforms the way relationships develop. Respect is also demonstrated through awareness. It means paying attention to body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, and emotional cues. Sometimes people communicate comfort without saying a word. Sometimes they communicate discomfort just as quietly. Emotionally intelligent people notice those signals because they are paying attention to the person rather than focusing only on themselves. This awareness extends far beyond physical boundaries. Emotional boundaries matter just as much. Not everyone wants to discuss personal struggles immediately. Not everyone is ready to share their deepest fears or experiences. Giving people the space to reveal themselves at their own pace shows that you value who they are instead of trying to control how quickly the relationship develops. Another misconception is that respecting boundaries creates distance. The truth is exactly the opposite. When people know their limits will be respected, they often become more open over time. They begin to relax because they don't feel pressured. They trust because they know they can say yes or no without fear of judgment. That freedom creates stronger relationships than pressure ever could. Great leaders understand this principle. They don't demand loyalty, they earn it. Great friends understand it too. They don't force conversations, they create environments where honesty feels safe. Healthy romantic relationships are built the same way. They don't rely on pressure or expectations, but on mutual respect and understanding. The strongest connections are never manufactured. They grow naturally because both people feel valued. One of the greatest qualities you can develop is the ability to hear an unspoken no. Not every boundary is expressed with words. Sometimes it appears as hesitation, silence, uncertainty, or a subtle step backward. Recognizing those moments and responding with kindness demonstrates emotional intelligence. It shows that you value another person's comfort more than satisfying your own expectations. Ironically, people are often drawn to those who never try to force closeness. Why? Because respect is attractive. It creates emotional safety, and emotional safety is the environment where authentic relationships flourish. When someone knows they can trust your intentions, they naturally become more comfortable in your presence. The goal should never be to make someone feel obligated to connect with you. The goal is to become someone whose actions consistently reflect integrity, patience, and empathy. Relationships built on respect last longer because they are rooted in choice rather than pressure. They are formed through mutual trust instead of obligation. At the end of the day, closeness is not something you can demand. It is something you earn. Every act of patience, every moment of understanding, and every decision to honor another person's boundaries quietly strengthens that foundation. Respect is not a barrier standing in the way of meaningful relationships. It is the bridge that leads to them. When people feel free to be themselves around you without fear of being rushed or pressured, they don't just appreciate your presence, they begin to trust it. And trust is where every lasting connection truly begins. One of the greatest misunderstandings about human connection is the belief that physical gestures create trust. They don't. Trust begins long before any handshake, hug, or conversation. It begins with presence. Your presence is the emotional atmosphere you bring into every room. It is the feeling people experience when they are around you. Before they remember your words, they remember how you made them feel. That is why your presence often speaks louder than physical contact. Think about the people who have made the biggest impact on your life. Chances are, it wasn't because they constantly reached for attention or tried to impress everyone around them. It was because they made you feel comfortable. They listened without interrupting. They looked at you when you spoke. They gave you their full attention instead of dividing it between you and their phone. They didn't rush to judge or criticize. They simply made you feel that in that moment you mattered. That kind of presence is rare. And because it is rare, it is unforgettable. Many people spend years trying to improve their appearance, perfect their words, or develop the perfect social skills, believing those things alone will create meaningful relationships. While those qualities have their place, they are not the foundation of connection. People are naturally drawn to authenticity. They can often sense when someone is trying too hard to be impressive, or when someone is simply comfortable being themselves. Authenticity creates peace. Pretending creates tension. There's a quiet confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't dominate conversations. It doesn't seek constant validation. Instead, it listens more than it speaks. It observes before reacting. It makes space for others to express themselves without feeling interrupted or judged. This kind of confidence isn't loud, but it is incredibly powerful because it allows other people to relax. Presence also means being emotionally available. In today's world, many people are physically present but mentally absent. Conversations compete with notifications, endless scrolling, and constant distractions. We hear words without truly listening. We respond without fully understanding. As a result, genuine connection becomes increasingly rare. The people who stand out are those who choose to be fully engaged. They put distractions aside and make another person feel seen, heard, and valued. Listening is one of the greatest gifts you can offer another human being. It tells them that their thoughts matter. It communicates respect without requiring elaborate words. Often, people don't need someone to solve all their problems. They simply need someone willing to understand them. That willingness creates trust far more effectively than any grand gesture ever could. Another important part of your presence is emotional consistency. People feel safe around those whose behavior is steady and predictable. If someone is kind one day but impatient the next, supportive one moment but dismissive the next, trust becomes difficult to establish. Consistency builds reliability. Reliability builds confidence. Confidence builds lasting relationships. This doesn't mean pretending to be perfect. No one is perfect. Everyone has difficult days. What matters is developing emotional self-awareness. It means recognizing your emotions without allowing them to control every interaction. It means responding thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. People admire those who remain calm under pressure because calmness creates stability. Stability makes others feel secure. Your body language also communicates far more than most people realize. A genuine smile, relaxed posture, open eye contact, and patient attention often express warmth more effectively than words. These signals tell people they are welcome, respected, and appreciated. On the other hand, impatience, constant distraction, or aggressive behavior can create discomfort even if your words sound polite. Communication is never limited to language. Every action sends a message. One of the most remarkable qualities of emotionally intelligent people is that they don't make every interaction about themselves. They ask thoughtful questions. They show genuine curiosity. They celebrate other people's achievements without feeling threatened. They create conversations where others feel encouraged to share instead of feeling pressured to perform. This generosity of attention strengthens relationships. Because everyone wants to feel understood, leadership experts often say that people don't follow titles, they follow trust. The same principle applies to personal relationships. People don't become close simply because you want them to. They become close because your character consistently demonstrates kindness, patience, honesty, and respect. Those qualities create an invisible sense of safety that no physical gesture can replace. The truth is that genuine connection has very little to do with perfect techniques and everything to do with genuine character. A respectful embrace means little if your daily actions communicate selfishness. A kind word loses its value if your behavior lacks integrity. What people believe about you is shaped not by isolated moments, but by repeated experiences. Every conversation, every act of patience, every decision to listen instead of interrupt contributes to the story your presence tells. At the end of the day, your greatest influence isn't found in what you say, or even what you do once in a while. It is found in who you consistently choose to be. Become someone whose presence brings calm instead of pressure, encouragement instead of judgment, and respect instead of expectation. When people feel emotionally safe in your presence, every interaction becomes more meaningful. They may not remember every conversation or every gesture, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And in the end, that feeling is what transforms ordinary relationships into extraordinary ones. For many people, strength is often misunderstood. They imagine it as being loud, dominant, or always in control. They think confidence means taking charge of every situation, speaking the most, or proving they are the most powerful person in the room. But the strongest people rarely feel the need to demonstrate their strength. Their confidence is quiet. It is steady. It is rooted in self-control rather than control over others. Real strength is gentle because it comes from inner security, not from the need to impress or intimidate. One of the clearest signs of maturity is the ability to remain calm when emotions are running high. Anyone can react impulsively when frustrated or excited. Anyone can raise their voice, insist on getting their way, or allow their emotions to dictate their actions. But true strength appears in the moments when you choose patience over impulse. It shows itself when you pause before responding, when you listen before speaking, and when you consider another person's feelings before acting. These choices may seem small, but they reveal extraordinary character. Think about the people who naturally earn respect. They don't demand it. They don't constantly remind others of their achievements or expect special treatment. Instead, they lead through consistency and humility. They understand that respect cannot be forced, because anything obtained through pressure disappears the moment the pressure is removed. Genuine respect is freely given to those whose actions repeatedly demonstrate integrity, kindness, and emotional stability. Gentleness is often mistaken for weakness because our culture sometimes celebrates aggression as a sign of confidence. Yet history repeatedly shows that the greatest leaders are those who combine courage with compassion. They understand that power without empathy creates fear, while power guided by kindness creates trust. The ability to remain composed, respectful, and considerate, even when you could choose otherwise, is one of the highest forms of strength. Emotional intelligence plays a significant role in this kind of confidence. It begins with understanding your own emotions. Before you can respond wisely to others, you must first recognize what is happening within yourself. Are you reacting out of insecurity? Are you seeking validation? Are you allowing pride to influence your decisions? Self-awareness gives you the opportunity to choose your response instead of becoming controlled by your emotions. Many conflicts begin not because people disagree, but because someone feels unheard or disrespected. When emotions take over, conversations quickly become competitions rather than opportunities for understanding. Strong people resist that temptation. They don't treat every disagreement as something they must win. Instead, they seek clarity before conclusions. They ask questions instead of making assumptions. They value understanding over being right. This approach not only resolves conflicts more effectively, but also strengthens relationships over time. Patience is another expression of genuine strength. Waiting, listening, and allowing trust to grow naturally require far more confidence than forcing immediate results. Whether in friendships, family relationships, or romantic connections, patience communicates security. It says, I don't need to rush this because I believe meaningful things take time. That attitude removes pressure from relationships and allows people to connect more honestly. There is also tremendous strength in accepting rejection with grace. Not every invitation will be accepted. Not every friendship will develop. Not every relationship will become what you hoped it would be. Insecure people often respond with anger, resentment, or attempts to change someone else's mind. Secure people respond with dignity. They respect another person's choices without allowing those choices to define their own worth. They understand that self-respect grows stronger when it is not dependent on constant approval from others. Humility is another characteristic of real strength. Humble people are confident enough to admit mistakes. They apologize sincerely when they are wrong. They are willing to learn because they know that growth requires honesty. Pride, on the other hand, resists correction and views every mistake as a threat. But the strongest individuals understand that admitting weakness is often the first step toward becoming stronger. This same principle applies to every interaction. A gentle tone of voice, respectful body language, and thoughtful actions communicate confidence more effectively than any attempt to appear dominant. People naturally trust those who remain calm under pressure because calmness creates emotional safety. They feel comfortable sharing their thoughts because they know they won't be met with judgment or unnecessary aggression. One of the greatest misconceptions is that people admire those who control others. In reality, lasting admiration is reserved for those who control themselves. Self-discipline is far more impressive than dominance. Remaining patient when provoked, remaining respectful when challenged, and remaining kind when kindness is not immediately returned demonstrate an inner strength that cannot be manufactured. As you move through life, remember that your greatest influence will never come from making people fear you or obey you. It will come from making people feel respected, valued, and safe in your presence. Real confidence never needs to overpower others because it is already secure within itself. Real strength does not push people away through force. It draws them closer through trust. And the person who masters patience, humility, empathy, and self-control possesses a strength that no circumstance can easily shake. That is the kind of strength that transforms relationships, inspires others, and leaves a lasting legacy wherever it goes. One of the biggest misconceptions about relationships is the belief that a single gesture can create a deep emotional connection. People often think that holding someone's hand, giving a hug, or sharing a romantic moment automatically builds intimacy. But genuine connection has never been created by physical gestures alone. Physical affection can express trust, but it cannot replace it. Trust is something that must be earned over time through consistent actions, honest communication, and genuine respect. Without that foundation, even the warmest gesture feels empty. With it, even the smallest gesture carries incredible meaning. Every lasting relationship begins long before physical closeness. It begins with character. It begins with showing up when you say you will. It begins with keeping your promises, speaking honestly, and treating people with kindness even when there is nothing to gain. These are the moments that quietly build confidence in another person's heart. They begin to believe that your words and your actions match, and once people believe that, trust starts to grow. Think about the strongest friendships you have ever had. They probably didn't become meaningful because of one unforgettable moment. They became meaningful because of countless ordinary moments. A conversation when you needed someone to listen. A message asking how you were doing. A promise that was kept. Support during a difficult season. Small acts repeated consistently become the foundation of every strong relationship. It is consistency, not intensity, that creates lasting connection. Many people search for shortcuts to closeness. They believe there must be a technique, a perfect phrase, or a specific action that instantly creates emotional intimacy. But relationships don't work that way. Human connection cannot be manufactured. It grows naturally when two people repeatedly choose honesty, respect, and understanding. There are no shortcuts to genuine trust, because trust is built through experience. One of the greatest gifts you can offer another person is reliability. Reliability means people know what to expect from you. They know your kindness isn't temporary. They know your respect doesn't disappear when things become difficult. They know your values remain the same whether life is easy or challenging. This consistency creates emotional security, and emotional security allows people to lower their defenses and become their authentic selves. Communication also plays a vital role in building trust. Honest conversations create stronger relationships than perfect conversations. People don't expect perfection, they expect sincerity. Being willing to admit mistakes, express your thoughts respectfully, and listen without becoming defensive demonstrates emotional maturity. When people know they can speak openly without fear of judgment, relationships deepen naturally. Listening deserves special attention because it is one of the purest expressions of respect. Too often, people listen only long enough to prepare their own response. They hear words but miss emotions. Genuine listening requires patience. It requires curiosity. It means trying to understand another person's perspective even when it differs from your own. This willingness to understand creates a powerful sense of belonging. And belonging is one of the deepest human needs. Another important truth is that trust grows strongest during difficult moments. It is easy to be supportive when everything is going well. The real test comes during disappointment, conflict, or uncertainty. Do you remain respectful when opinions differ? Do you stay dependable when circumstances become inconvenient? Do you continue to show kindness when emotions are high? The answers to these questions determine the strength of your relationships far more than moments of celebration ever will. Empathy is another cornerstone of meaningful connection. Empathy allows you to step outside your own perspective and genuinely consider another person's experience. Instead of asking, "How does this situation affect me?" Empathy asks, "What might this person be feeling right now?" That simple shift changes everything. It transforms conversations from arguments into opportunities for understanding. It replaces assumptions with compassion. It reminds us that every person carries experiences we cannot always see. Trust also requires patience. You cannot expect someone to open their heart immediately simply because your intentions are good. Every individual has lived a different life. Some have experienced betrayal. Others have learned to protect themselves after disappointment. Respecting another person's pace demonstrates wisdom. It shows that you value the person more than your own desire for immediate closeness. Perhaps the most beautiful aspect of trust is that it cannot be demanded. It must be freely given. That is why integrity matters so much. Every honest action, every promise kept, every respectful conversation quietly strengthens the invisible bridge between two people. Over time, that bridge becomes strong enough to support deep friendship, lasting love, and meaningful partnership. At the end of the day, people rarely remember the grand gestures as clearly as they remember consistent character. They remember who stood beside them when life became difficult. They remember who treated them with dignity when others did not. They remember who listened without interrupting, who encouraged without expecting anything in return, and who remained trustworthy when no one was watching. These qualities create relationships that endure because they are built on something far stronger than appearances or emotions alone. Physical gestures may communicate affection, but trust gives those gestures their meaning. Without trust, closeness feels uncertain. With trust, even the simplest handshake, smile, or embrace carries profound significance. So instead of searching for ways to appear more impressive, focus on becoming more dependable. Become someone whose words reflect honesty, whose actions reflect integrity, and whose presence reflects genuine care. Because in the end, the deepest connections are never created by what you do in a single moment. They are built by who you consistently choose to be every single day, Every interaction you have with another person leaves something behind. It may leave encouragement or disappointment. It may leave confidence or doubt. It may leave a sense of peace or a feeling of discomfort. Whether you realize it or not, your words, your attitude, and your actions continue to influence people long after the conversation ends. That is why one of the greatest goals you can have in any relationship is not to impress someone, but to ensure they leave your presence feeling more respected than when they arrived. Many people spend their lives trying to be remembered. They want others to admire their achievements, recognize their talents, or notice their confidence. But truly remarkable people focus on something different. Instead of asking, "How can I make people think highly of me?" they ask, "How can I make people feel valued?" This simple shift changes every interaction because it moves the focus away from ego and towards service. Respect is one of the greatest gifts you can offer another human being because every person longs to feel seen and appreciated. People may come from different backgrounds, hold different opinions, or live entirely different lives, but everyone shares the desire to be treated with dignity. When someone feels respected, they become more open, more trusting, and more willing to build meaningful relationships. Respect creates opportunities that force never can. One of the most powerful ways to show respect is through the way you listen. Genuine listening communicates that another person's thoughts matter. It tells them they are worthy of your time and attention. Too often, conversations become competitions where people wait impatiently for their turn to speak instead of truly understanding one another. But the strongest relationships are built by people who listen first and speak second. They recognize that understanding someone is far more valuable than simply being heard. Kindness also plays an essential role in leaving every interaction on a positive note. Kindness is not weakness, nor is it something reserved only for easy situations. True kindness appears when patience is tested. It appears when misunderstandings arise, when emotions become intense, and when circumstances become challenging. Anyone can be kind when life is going well. Character is revealed when kindness remains even during moments of frustration or disagreement. Another important aspect of respect is allowing people to maintain their dignity. There is never a need to embarrass someone to prove a point or to win an argument. Emotionally mature people understand that preserving another person's self-respect strengthens relationships, while unnecessary criticism often creates lasting wounds. They correct gently, encourage sincerely, and recognize that everyone is growing and learning at their own pace. Humility is another quality that leaves a lasting impression. Humble people do not need to dominate every conversation or convince everyone they are right. They are willing to admit mistakes, apologize when necessary, and celebrate the success of others without jealousy. This kind of humility creates trust because it shows that your confidence is rooted in character rather than pride. People naturally feel comfortable around those who are secure enough to value others without constantly seeking attention for themselves. Encouragement is another gift that costs nothing but can transform someone's entire day. A sincere compliment, a few thoughtful words, or genuine recognition of another person's efforts can inspire confidence that lasts far beyond the conversation itself. Many people quietly carry burdens that others cannot see. They may be struggling with fear, disappointment, or self-doubt. You may never know what someone is facing, but your kindness has the power to remind them that they are not invisible. This is why emotional intelligence is so valuable. It teaches us to look beyond appearances and recognize the humanity in every person we meet. It encourages us to respond with empathy rather than judgment. Instead of asking what we can gain from an interaction, emotionally intelligent people ask what they can contribute. They understand that every conversation to build someone up rather than tear them down. Leaving people with more respect than before also means honoring their boundaries, appreciating their differences, and avoiding the temptation to manipulate or control. Healthy relationships are built on freedom, not pressure. When people know they can be themselves around you without fear of criticism or unnecessary expectations, they begin to trust you more deeply. That trust becomes the foundation for authentic and lasting connection. The remarkable truth is that your legacy is not determined only by your accomplishments. It is determined by the way people felt after spending time with you. Years from now, many will forget the exact words you spoke or the specific details of your conversations. But they will remember whether you made them feel safe, valued, respected, and understood. Those emotional memories often last longer than facts or achievements. As you move through life, make it your goal to become the kind of person whose presence leaves every room a little brighter. Choose patience over pride. Choose understanding over assumptions. Choose encouragement over criticism. Let your actions consistently communicate honesty, compassion, and integrity. When people leave your presence feeling stronger, more respected, and more hopeful than before, you have accomplished something far greater than making a good impression. You have made a meaningful difference in another human being's life. In the end, that is what genuine influence looks like. It is not measured by how many people notice you, but by how many people become better because they crossed your path.